everyone, and welcome to a new video. I'm doing a new thing and I'm not sure if it's gonna work or not, but I'm just gonna go with it and see if it's gonna be anything. I wanted to do like a reading vlog because I really enjoy watching them when other people are doing them. I'm starting one of my most anticipated reads of the year. Basically, I'm starting Imagine Me by Tahereh Mafi, which is the last book in the Shadow Me series. I can tell that this is going to be an emotional ride. I feel like I'm going to need someone to discuss the book with whilst I'm reading it. And I don't have any of my close book friends that I know that have read the book or are currently reading it. So this is a way for me to have like a read along with someone that have read it or haven't read it. Like, I'm hoping you're watching this and I've actually read the book, seeing as this is the final in a 6-book series. I feel like we need to be prepared for me crying and possibly more. I really hope that this book lives up to my expectations. Without further ado, enjoy me reading this book and possibly be an emotional wreck. Let's just cross our fingers and hope that this book is as good as the other books and like that my lovely characters will have their happy ending. Page 309 and Imagine Me. I have no clue how this is gonna end. Like, at this point, anything could happen. Kenji and Warner and Nazira are now going to Oceania, Australia, basically. We just found out that if, like, the re-establishment, aka Anderson and all those stupid people, if they manage to do the transfer, like put Emmeline's mind into Juliet's body, Juliet's basically gone and they have to kill her. See, the thing is, Juliet and Warner have the most insane connection ever, so even if that transaction happens, I feel like Warner might be able to pull Juliet's mind back, but at the same time, like, right now, her mind is working in a weird way. Like, pretty sure Anderson swiped most of her memories away, but she's still remembering something, so I'm not sure how she currently is, so it's confusing. Also, like, Nazir is fine after the gunshot, and Sam and Noria, Castle, Warner and Kenji just finished their meeting about how they're gonna end all this, like, how they're basically gonna save the world. When Warner and Kenji were leaving, Nazira were standing there, and Kenji, like, hugged her and was like, oh my god, you're alive, I'm so happy. I love the fact that Kenji finally has someone who loves him so much, and I just love Kenji so much. He's like, I'm pretty sure Kenji is my favorite character. He was joking with Sam in Noria, and they're like, one of them, I think it was Sam, was saying like, I can't understand how you handle him, Castle. I can't handle the jokes. And then Castle looked at Nasira and was like, we don't love him for his jokes, right, Nasira? We love him for his heart. And same. Honestly, same. So I was meant to film this final thoughts clip at the end of this video probably 3 months ago, when I actually did finish Imagine Me. That being said, I will say when I finished the book, my mind, my head was a bit of a scramble. I needed days to figure out what I thought of that ending. I literally wrote down an entire essay. Like, can you see all that? That's all my scrambled thoughts. Yes, I know, people. I know. Where do I even start talking about this? After waiting so long to read this final book, like, this is surely the end of the Shatter Me universe. I think we all can understand that. I really did enjoy like the 4th and 5th book in the series, and I can't say I didn't enjoy this, but that being said, I don't know, people, like, I don't know how to explain it. In the first trilogy, we mostly got Juliet's point of view, and then we got a bit from Adam, and then a bit from Warner, but it was mostly Juliet's story. Then in the 4th book and 5th book, we got more from Kenji's point of view, which I did like, because Kenji is one of my favorite characters, and being inside his head was very interesting, because we finally got to see like what he felt and like his emotions. We also got more from Warner and Juliet, obviously, but then in this final book, Warner, like, we never got his point of view, except for like in the epilogue, which was just so unnecessary. It kind of annoyed me, because Warner's powers is basically to feel other people's emotions and use other people's powers. Warner would have been the perfect connection to every single person in this book to know how they felt. Like, I just don't get why Tahereh dropped having his point of view. The book would have been so much better if we actually got Warner's point of view. I honestly do believe that. Also, I feel like Warner turned out to be like a different character in this book, especially after Juliet was taken for the 2nd time, by the way. Warner almost seemed like a completely different character in Imagine Me. I understand that he is a very closed off person, like he's a very closed off character in itself, which is understandable. Like, the one person he trusts is Juliet, or like Ella, and that's the way it's been for like forever. But I felt like, at least in the end of the last book, we saw him opening up to Kenji a bit more, and he kind of had this like banter thing going on with Kenji. I felt like they were becoming close, like friends, as close friends as Warner can be to a person that isn't Juliet. Like, it was just weird. And then I felt like towards the end of the book, the story became a bit too repetitive. It was kind of too close to the story in Restore Me. First of all, Juliet was taken so easily. Anderson came, and then they kind of just took her, which I found really weird. And then the rescue mission was like the worst rescue mission in this, like, in the history of rescue missions. I was so frustrated at that point. I was like, what is going on? in this book. I understand why Tahereh did what she did with the rescue mission. I understand that the whole point of, like, the re-establishment, that's what they're called, right? Anyway, the people in Australia, like, I understand why they took Juliet. Obviously that was like the whole problem in the end. Anderson wanted to use Juliet and connect her to Emmeline and for them to be like the ultimate weapon. So it made sense for them to capture Juliet again and like finally do the transaction between the mind and body thing. Like, they never got close to actually doing it. And then Warner, Kenji and Asira like coming to rescue Juliet, that was obvious that they would do that. I was not scared for anyone's lives, but it was a war. So like, I should have felt like that. Every single point leading up to the rescue mission, there'd been talk about there's a war, we need to win, people will die. And yes, some people died, but it didn't seem like a war. Honestly, I don't even know. The scene when Warner found Juliet at last in Australia and like Juliet's memory had been wiped, but it was done very quickly, so they'd done a bad job. So like, it was possible for her to get her memories back and whatnot. I was like, oh, are we doing this again? But the way that Tahereh described that whole situation and Warner just defending himself against Juliet and him kind of breaking this thing, like this shield around Juliet's mind, like the way that she wrote it, it was so intricate and so detailed and so well explained that I was like, you know what, maybe she can save this. Maybe Tahereh Mafi can actually save this story. That scene is probably the best one in the entire book. And I had high hopes. But then it just went downhill from there. I lost hope. And yeah. After that, the book just took a weird turn. Kenji went to find Nasira so that they could like get out of the whole building and go back home. Warner was taking care of Juliet so that they could like fix everything, but like it was so stupidly done. Kenji went to find Nasira, he knocked on the door and then she magically appeared with all the other Supreme Commander's kids alive. And then Steven made a bomb and blew like the wall inside the room to bits. They all escaped. Like, no one was harmed in any way. The last sentence of that chapter is Kenji and all of them like safe out of the building, and then they turn their backs so that they face towards the building. The whole building has collapsed and it's on fire. Warner and Juliet are trapped inside. Like, oh, maybe someone will die, maybe they're harmed. Like, the next chapter starts. Juliet and Warner are fine and they're searching for Emmeline, and they finally find her. Max, Juliet's dad, is in the way for like 5 seconds. This book has been leading up to Juliet having to kill her sister so that she's free. Emmeline spoke to Juliet for like 5 seconds, kill me and take me home, something. Juliet killed Emmeline in like less than 30 seconds. It was just too easy. I'm not saying that I want my favorite characters to die, but no one died. It's a work of fiction, it's war. People need to die. Like, Anderson was killed in 2 seconds. But all through these books, he's been impossible to kill. Juliet killed him off in the original series. Turns out he'd never died. Warner tried to kill him, and Kenji tried to kill him. When Anderson came to find Juliet, they tried to kill him, and that was impossible. But now they killed him in 2 seconds. How? It felt like Tahereh suddenly killed these people so easily just to get a happy ending. It was kind of disappointing. And I know that Tahereh said before she wrote this second trilogy that I'm not writing this to kill off Juliet and Warner. And I'm not saying I wanted either of them to die, but like, no one important died except for like the villains. Emmeline dying that was the whole point of this whole book. Like, we were expecting it. Also, like, the love story between Kenji and Nasira, I personally loved. That part of this story, it was perfectly written. But then when they went on the rescue mission to find Juliet, like just before they split up, Nasira told Kenji, "Please don't die. I can tell I'm about 4 months away from falling madly in love with you." After that, they never spoke. Like, we didn't get any more information about them. Like, that was it. Because I loved their story and how they fell in love. But like, that being the last sentence said between them in the whole entire series was a bit weird. Also, another thing, we never got a reunion between Juliet and Kenji. Like, when they find Juliet, Kenji whispers something in Juliet's ear, but like, she still has her memory wiped, so they don't really have a reunion. I guess like the epilogue made up for it, but like all through Imagine Me, we can tell that Juliet is Kenji's best friend. She is like the one person that Kenji can go to, and she's the one person that can read him and understand him without him saying even a single word. So I found it kind of weird that we never got a proper reunion between them, but I guess Tahereh didn't want that to be the ending of the book. Talking about the epilogue, it was strange. I feel like we should have gotten more information about what they're doing. Like, what are they doing? Are they building an army? Juliet and Warner basically have the world in their hands right now. What are they gonna do about it? That's basically the ending of Ignite Me, although in Ignite Me, they still had enemies, and in Imagine Me, they've killed their enemies. Also, Adam's storyline makes no sense. He sold his powers to Anderson so that his brother didn't have to die at the hands of Anderson. That's all we know. He got no proper ending. The whole part in the epilogue is just like so useless, with him saying some random stuff. Like, your role is pointless and it makes no sense. I think overall it was parts that were missing from the story, and for this to be like an epic conclusion to this whole series, it was missing a few things. This was meant to be the epic conclusion that solved everything and kind of gave us the answers that we've been waiting for. We got parts of it, but not all of it. For this to be the proper ending of the series, it was kind of disappointing, I'll be honest. I still thoroughly enjoyed the book. I read it quite quickly, but this is a story that I've had close to my heart for so long, and I love all of these characters. So for this to be the ending was very disappointing. I do stand by the fact that I think that if Tahereh kept Warner's point of view in this story, it would have helped a lot more. Seeing as Juliet was, like, her story wasn't really important. Emmeline kind of comes into Juliet's mind in the beginning of the book, and from that, her point of views aren't really necessary. Yes, Juliet's point of view is important because we do get to see her fighting against Emmeline's mind, and like obviously we get to know what's happening in Australia with Anderson and all of that, but we don't get Juliet's true feelings because Juliet's mind's not actually there for most of the book, except for like the last chapter. Warner being so closely connected to Juliet, that would have added a lot more, because Juliet is the main protagonist, and seeing as her mind was kind of wiped, I feel like Warner's could have been a good replacement, because Kenji, even though he's her best friend, he doesn't have that connection to Juliet that Warner has. So replacing most of Juliet's story with Kenji's point of view was, I think, a letdown. It would have been fine to keep Kenji's point of view in the story, but skipping out on Warner's point of view really didn't help the story. But yeah, that's my final thoughts on the book. Pretty sure I gave it 3.5 stars on Goodreads, which I'm so sad about. Please let me know what you thought of the book, and also what were your favorite parts. I know I've mainly focused on the negative parts because this was a disappointment for me, but there were highlights in the book as well. That's it for this video. I'm sorry it hasn't been up sooner. Also, this is my first attempt at a reading vlog. I'm sorry if it's not up to your expectations, but I will work on them. I hope you all have a nice evening or afternoon wherever you are watching this, and I shall see you in my next video. Bye.